Hi guys, and welcome to 𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. Today is my second video and I would like to talk about self-healing today. I did go live today with my soul sister. We were talking about, self-healing, how important it is not just for us, but for the whole collective. The collective as in all of humanity, everything around us. But it has to start with you. So you may have heard, people keep saying, look within, or self-love, or heal yourself. And it's sometimes hard to understand when you have to look within. What does looking within mean? And looking within is simply becoming self-aware. And when you're self-aware, you kind of, observe yourself from, I guess, a third perspective point of view. So we might, quickly assume or judge other people by saying, this person's like this person's like that. But we tend to also do it to ourselves, but we're not aware of it. So we usually use words that define ourselves. So from my previous video about over-identification, so we can say things about ourselves that then create the reality around us. So why is self-healing important, or self-awareness is so important, is because it allows us to actually notice when we get triggered or when we feel happy. It doesn't always have to be about negatives. So self-awareness is just becoming aware. And that's why meditation is such a good way, or is a suggested method, is because when we meditate or when we sit still, we are then able to become aware, not just of our surroundings, but of our thoughts about the surroundings and ourselves. So self-healing doesn't mean, this is something that came up in conversation. Self-healing doesn't mean we're broken and that we have to fix ourselves. And I think a lot of people maybe that tend to not want to go to, let's say, therapy or psychologist, or even see a life coach, or go to a healing place because of many reasons. Also, obviously, of shame, that they feel like, they're, it's seen as, I guess, maybe a weakness, or there's some kind of shame behind it. It's like, oh, I don't have life together. And now see how we're relating it to other people's thoughts about us. So it's almost like we're afraid to take steps in our life because of the people around us and what they may think about us. So this is a great way to become self-aware, that we are giving our power away. Because we live in a 3D reality, and it's like we like to relate ourselves to others. We like to relate ourselves to things happening in our life like we do. That's how we're introduced into the world. It's like, I'm 𝗲 or 𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀, or my real name's Eva. So let's say I'm Eva, this is mommy, this is daddy. And we kind of like, this is you, this is the rest of the world. So we're pre-programmed to always look outside of us, when really everything happens within. So self-healing is basically becoming aware of our behaviors, of our thoughts, of our emotions. And then that reflects then into the world. And so we may say, oh, my life isn't great because of, X, Y, and Z situation, or because that person is stopping me from living my life. And so if we focus so much of what is not going right in our lives, we tend to then bring about more of that, because inside our inner belief is that it can't look a certain way. Like, we are stuck in this scenario. So when we feel like we're stuck in this scenario, we look outside and we don't look inside, we don't transform that. So what I mean by that is, we give our power away by saying it was someone else's, or, something else around us. So to really create the life that we want is to change that belief that everything's not working out and start focusing on what is working out. So when we focus on, it's not about just saying like, oh, I don't know, this person's mean to me, and then wake up the next day being like, this person's great to me. But it really is about, okay, so this person's not nice to me. I would like that person to be nice to me. How am I being nice to myself? Am I treating myself the way I would like to treat myself? Like, for example, if you would, I think a good example is saying like, oh, these people don't care about me. They're not, spending much time with me. And then you then say, oh, but what I'd like to focus on is them giving me time or undivided attention. But if you're not giving yourself undivided attention, like, how are you spending your time? Like, are you just sitting there and waiting around? Those are the dogs. We've got 2 border collies. Side note. Anyway, so they may bark in the background. And yeah, so it's like, are you giving yourself that undivided attention? How are you spending your time? Are you respecting yourself? Because how can you expect something from other people if you're not giving it to yourself? So it's almost like, you got to fill up your own cup to show a full cup, to act or from that state of being full, whole, and complete. And we as human beings are already whole and complete. But because we look outside of us, we feel like we're lacking. So when we're taking action from a place of lack, we cannot, be full, right? If you're always thinking the glass is half empty, then how can you believe it's, how can you act from a place of it's full or it's not that bad? So if we think that a situation is not going well, our state, our being, our feelings will reflect that. So if we go into a room feeling like you're not good enough, then you will literally come in the room, looking at your hands or something. You'll be looking downwards. You'll come into the room feeling I'm not good enough. And so other people will then be like, oh, they'll feel that distance. They might not know exactly like, oh, she's not good enough. They'll just feel like they'll be a bit more cautious maybe. It's like, oh, don't want to talk or something like that, So it's a subconscious thing. So why self-healing is so important, and it's more about self-awareness, because self-healing, we are not broken. Why I say we're not broken and we don't have to specifically fix anything. It's not about fixing ourselves, because we are whole and complete. And why I say we're whole and complete, because we can be whole and complete in the emotions, in the thoughts that we have. So instead of automatically reacting to certain emotions that we have, because we are not our emotions. Emotions come and go, right? It's just a reaction because it's from a thought that we have, our interpretation of the situation. 2 people can be in the same situation and completely understand what's happening on a completely different level. So one person be like, oh, that wasn't too bad. And another person could be traumatized by the situation, right? So self-healing is about awareness, and it's about noticing what kind of behaviors, thoughts, and feelings you have. And to actually move from feeling, let's say unworthy as an example from earlier, is to become aware where this shows up in your life and what you are meaning it about yourself. So I want to repeat that because that's really key. So really key is, what are you making the situation? What are you making this comment? What are you making this person? What are you making this situation mean about you? So what is your relationship? I know it sounds weird because I've said it to other people and people seem to not understand the question. So the question is, what are you making this pen mean about yourself? So let's say this pen was given to you by, you know, someone special, but they, let's say, broke up with you now. And so I feel like I keep bringing the breaking up situation up because I think people can relate to being abandoned or feeling like, you know, it's a common thing. Anyway, so let's say this pen was given to you by someone special and now, you know, they're not in your life anymore. And so whenever you see this pen, you're going to make it mean about you that you've lost this person. So when you see it, it's almost like that bittersweet feeling of like the joy of being with that person, but then also the terrible sadness, grief that comes with, you know, that person not being in your life anymore. So what you're making the situation mean about you is maybe that you're not worthy of love or that you are unlovable. So see how it's not about the pen? It's not about the person who left you. It's about something deeper within you. And that situation may have sparked those feelings, but it doesn't mean like those feelings are, they don't define you. So they are totally valid. Your feelings, that's why I say we're not broken. We are like, all our emotions are valid. And so we can actually find empowerment in the feeling, in the emotion, in the thought process. If we understand and see ourselves with self-awareness, it's almost like an aha moment rather than a tragedy. It's like, oh, that's why I've been thinking this way. And oh, that's what I'm making the situation mean about me. It's not personal. It's how I've interpreted the situation. So that's where self-healing comes into play, is when we actually show ourselves some self-love and not interpret situations to, you know, the max of disaster. And we lessen the attachment that we give to things. We then find we are triggered less. Although triggers are positive and negative depending. Triggers are just like situations that like heighten our emotions. So you can be triggered by, you know, something on TV and feel really anxious, but you can be triggered by something positive as well. So let's say you have someone you love deeply and they give you a pen, and every time you hold this pen you feel so happy. It means you've got a positive trigger. So self-healing is about that self-awareness. I keep repeating this. And so that you can then, in a way, be in control of your life, even in the emotions. Because we've come here to this earth as humans to experience the range of emotions. We've come here to experience all these emotions. So actually, feeling sad isn't a bad thing, isn't. It's because we're just uncomfortable. We don't like the feeling, so we've attached a meaning that this is like uncomfortable. I don't want to feel this. So basically, when we feel emotions, it's like, oh, I feel this, instead of I am sad, which means you're basically defining yourself as sadness. But if you say I feel sad or I carry sadness, it lessens, you know, that attachment you have to it. So you're totally allowed to feel your feelings. You're just not as attached. You're not making it mean that that's your reality. It's just something that comes and goes. So I do encourage starting a self-healing, self-love practice. And I do this with, you know, this is what I help people with. I do one-to-one coaching and I help people. So if you're interested in that, send me a message on Instagram or down below and we can have a chat. But for that, but that's all I wanted to talk to you about today. So yeah, follow me on Instagram or give this a like and let's have a conversation. Thank you guys.